Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by T.A. Forsberg and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
So being a small business owner may be one of the greatest challenges out there. A program called EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System, is a structured program with tons of followers, and it appears to bring organization and peace to these owners. Here to explain what EOS really is and how the use of an implementer can really help is Mr. Mike Maddox. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So let's start with your background. So, what kind of experience have you had as an entrepreneur and a small business owner as we kind of set up what kind of services you're going to provide?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. So my background is as an entrepreneur. I owned and operated a small business here in Lansing called ASK, IT and Cybersecurity Services, for many, many years. And we were able to successfully grow that over time and eventually sold that to a much larger multinational company. But that's where I really cut my teeth, so to speak.
So if you had any challenges along the way starting this company,
no, none at all.
Imagine you occasionally banged your head against the wall. Can you share with us kind of what kinds of things bubbled up, themes, topics? I don't need to get into the deep parts of it.
It's like any business owner, especially entrepreneurs, that can relate to the fact that as you grow a business, there are multiple times where you feel like you're pushing the business up a hill. And it's just, you're successful, you're moving forward, but it's just enormous effort to get things moving. And that, when I look back at my time growing ASK, that's what really comes to mind, is that feeling of, man, the bigger we get, the more dysfunction I start to see, the harder it is to kind of solve that dysfunction. And the more we're just constantly feeling like we're stuck in the mud, or we're just pushing it, like the owner, especially, or the entrepreneur, feels like they're carrying the weight of the business, they're pushing it. That's the main theme that comes to mind for me.
Got it. So how long did you kind of rough and tumble before you discovered EOS?
Too long. Yeah, too long. And I had read Traction, the book that started EOS, a number of years prior, and I'm ashamed to say I read it, set it aside, and I fell victim to what I hear a lot of business owners tell me today, which is, I think it's great, but I just don't have time. I'm too busy, got too much going on, and we're just too overwhelmed. And it's ironic, and I laugh at that because I really felt that was right. But in reality, the reason I needed EOS is because we had too much going on, and that we were a little too overloaded.
Yep.
And so too long. Eventually, I brought in an EOS implementer, and it changed everything in our business.
And did you just discover the book, or did you have a mentor that suggested it? Or
I had a number of friends in town that had started running on EOS that recommended it and recommended the book to me. But it wasn't until a couple of years later that I took the plunge and we implemented EOS, and it was, as I mentioned a minute ago, just transformational. In every area. It didn't happen overnight, but over the course of the next year, 2 years, we really began to get what we call healthy in the 6 foundational areas of a business. EOS talks about the fact that all businesses, and I think most business people can relate to this. If you're in networking groups, you've seen this proven out. Businesses face, there's about 120, 130, research says, common problems to every business. There's a discrete number. We all face the same issues.
Yep.
There are people issues, there's financial issues, there's process issues. They're all basically the same, but they all boil back down to 6 fundamental areas of a healthy business. And that's what EOS really is getting healthy in the 6 foundational areas of a business.
Got it. So Gino Wickman is the brainchild behind Traction and then the EOS system, right?
Yeah, Gino, a Michigan guy from Livonia. He was his story is that he ran his family's business and turned it around, became a founding member of EO Detroit chapter, became fascinated with business health and business, acumen and business operational efficiency. And, what was interesting is, we've all read all the books, right? I mean, we've read The Good to Great and The Scaling Up and The Built to Last and Rockefeller Habits and anything Lencioni has written, Lencioni has written. And I had read all those too. And, I tried to implement each one of them piecemeal into my business, and it never worked. What Gino did that was brilliantly simple, as he said, these are just foundational truths. Like I haven't created anything here, but I can bring them together into an operating system that allows a business, if they implement this, to get all the benefits of all those, those foundational truths of business into their organization.
So can you explain a little bit about the role of the visionary and the integrator?
Yeah, the integrator, in an EOS term, integrator is the person who runs the day-to-day business, the operations of the business, keeps the trains running on time, keeps them on track, holds everyone accountable. Everyone really reports up to the integrator. Different from the visionary. And the visionary, if you have a visionary in your business, not all businesses have a visionary, but often in entrepreneurial companies, there is a visionary, and he's the person, he or she is the person who, is always thinking of a million new ideas, has a new initiative, a new idea every day, wants to go in a different direction, full of energy, loves big relationships, typically not really good at the follow through or the details or getting into the weeds. That's what the integrator does.
Right.
And if you can pair a visionary with an integrator and they can have a strong relationship, it's incredibly powerful. In fact, Gino Wickman wrote another book called Rocket Fuel that's about that concept itself. And that's what we experienced. I was the visionary at ASK, and we had a very strong integrator. And between the two of us, we just started to get that rocket fuel. Because a visionary left unchecked will often overwhelm the business.
And that's kind of the punchline, right? I mean, I think a lot of companies out there, small businesses, are led. In my opinion, I did some small business coaching and consulting for years, and I look back on it not knowing about the EOS system. That we have a lot of visionaries out there that are frying their workforce and the relationships. It's a kind of scattered leadership, promises kind of unfollowed up on, good-natured, good intention,
well-intentioned,
and sometimes just spins into real frustration from the visionary.
And I was guilty of that, in my early days at ASK. In fact, I was guilty of it. I was consciously guilty of it enough that when I looked at EOS and I sat in the way we decided to move forward was I sat in what EOS implementers like myself call a 90-minute meeting. I hate that term. I call it an EOS workshop because, who wants to sit in a 90-minute meeting? But an EOS workshop sounds more, and really that is what it is. An EOS workshop is 90 minutes of what is EOS, what are the foundational elements of it, what are the tools of it, how does it work, what do you as a business need to be committed to if you want to go on this journey, and what could it potentially do for you? And then you as a business leadership team can decide, this is a fit for us or it's not. But I had sat in one of those and I was convinced, okay, this is what we need. But I didn't want to just come back to the business and say, we're going to implement this, because I had done that with so many different ideas. Right. And it was like, okay, my fear was...
Here he goes again.
Yeah, that was my fear as a staff was like, okay, Mike went to a seminar or Mike read a book. So I didn't tell my leadership team, much. I just said, we're going to have an implementer come in and they're going to explain this EOS operating system to us. And it'll take an hour and a half.
And I want your feedback.
Want your feedback. At the end of it, it was, it was like I had 12 people. I had way too many people on our leadership team, like 12 people. And every one of them was like, we needed this like 4 years ago. Like we absolutely need this. And they were right. They were dead on right.
Well, I want to give a quick nod to one of my sponsors. So when it comes to managing your finances and planning your future, I suggest you contact my friends at Wagoner Financial. Whether you're just getting started, getting ready to retire, or anywhere in between, Wagoner Financial can help you make smart financial decisions. Don't navigate complex problems on your own. Wagoner has the expertise to help you feel confident that you're making the right financial choices. Contact an advisor by calling 517-853-3367 or visit their website at wagonerfinancial.com. So you have that meeting, and how easy is it to implement EOS? I mean, it sounds like you had buy-in, which obviously, when people are saying, we're focusing on this, now the banner is that, and the slogan is this, and it keeps changing. But it sounds like you did this craftfully where you had your team really excited. With that buy-in, did that make it quite a bit easier to go down this road?
I think a truism is, as goes the leadership team, so goes the company. And the leadership team bought in, and the work began. I mean, we began the hard work of EOS is an incredibly beautifully simple program. If you read Traction, you'll come away thinking, this stuff is it's no-brainer stuff, and it is. But the power in EOS again is that it's a holistic program that you can implement into your business. Our leadership team began that work of implementing that with the help of our implementer. And then it's caught, not taught. And it was interesting as it got rolled out through the company and we began to get really productive in our meetings. Like the meetings changed completely from just, sessions where we talked about stuff forever and didn't really solve much to, real meetings where we were solving issues every single week and seeing things move forward. The staff, completely bought in on their own. And it was interesting. I did a survey about 9 months into our EOS journey of our staff, and I put a question in there, and the survey was about morale. It was just, I did regular morale surveys and engagement surveys, and I put a question in that basically said, how instrumental is EOS to our future success? And in my company, there are a bunch of technology people. They don't rate things high, and they like to argue about everything, right? So they're very smart, but they're very combative.
Right.
This was the only question I've ever put in a survey in the 30 years I've been in business that 100% of our staff put a 10 out of 10 on that question. And wow. I knew at that point, I looked at my business partner and I said, I don't want to, but even if I wanted to, I couldn't take EOS out of this company. There's no way. And it's still effective in running today. And in fact, it's effective in running in the multinational that bought us and is implemented there as well.
Fantastic. So now you mentioned you sold your company, you played a role for a period of time, and now you're downshifting into being an EOS ambassador.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your journey. What made you decide to do this? How do you go through an accreditation, and what kind of services will you directly provide?
Yeah, it's, as I saw how it transformed us, and I met other businesses in Michigan and beyond Michigan that all told the same story, I became, a true believer in the program and what EOS can do. And I started talking about it more and more. So a lot of my clients, I began to talk to them about it, and they would have me come out and talk to their leadership team, and I would refer an implementer. And eventually I became fascinated by that, and I really like coaching leadership teams anyway. Coaching is one of the things that I love to do. So I began to do some coaching, and then ultimately that resulted in becoming a fully accredited EOS professional implementer, which involves going through boot camp and a lot of training and a lot of vetting. They do a really good job of vetting the process to make sure that the people who are implementing this program know what they're doing and have experience in business. They're not just, saw the idea, read the book, and want to make some money, that they really are passionate about this. So I began that actually 2-3 years ago and continued to implement at the company that bought us out. So I've been doing most of my work with them with a handful of clients on the side. I am, as you mentioned, downshifting now. So going into 2024, I'll be flipping that script and doing full-time implementation, still coaching the company that bought us out, but day-to-day just coaching businesses, which is what I love to do.
Well, that's great. So just to be clear then, so the visionary and the integrator are employees of the company and are kind of the spearhead of the organization, and the implementer, which is the role that you're going to be playing, is an outsider, is a third-party coach that comes in and helps sell the value proposition or explain the value proposition, and then plays a role in that company's success. But you're not employed by the company. You're
not employed. It's the way I explain it to my clients is that my role is to coach, facilitate, draw the answers out. Leadership teams, I have found 100% of the time have the answers to their problems and their issues within them. They're the ones that created them, and they have the answers within them. My job is to get those answers out, to help them get the answers out. I'm not a consultant. I don't come in and provide answers or give them a PowerPoint or a study that I've done. I'm there to facilitate, coach, guide, and lead them to the right answers because they know what the answers are. It's just a matter of getting the framework and the processes in place to find them. And not as an employee. You work with the leadership team. Typically, companies will work with their implementer for a couple of years. 2 years is the average, and then they graduate. The company will graduate. Some companies, I have clients now that are past the 2-year mark that will keep me on. They just want me to do their quarterlies and their annual meetings to facilitate those for the leadership team. Others will say, we just want you to come in and do our annual. And others just graduate and they say, we've got it from here. And of course, once you're a client of mine, you're always a client. Even if I'm not regularly engaged, I'm always available and willing to help in any way I can.
Got it. So if I'm listening to this and I'm pulling my hair out and I find 15 minutes to actually listen to a podcast, and I'm like, this speaks to me, how do they decide whether EOS maybe is right for them?
Yeah, the best thing they can do is a couple things they could do. If you go to eosworldwide.com, there's a great health check, company checkup that you can fill out. And if you fill that out, it'll give you a pretty clear picture of whether your gut as a business owner and entrepreneur that something's amiss is right, and it'll give you an indication whether EOS could potentially benefit you. The other thing you can always do is have someone like me, an implementer, come in and do an EOS workshop, also called a 90-minute meeting, and that's free. And we come in as implementers and explain the program. We're not salespeople. EOS coaches are, we're not looking to make a sale, gain a client, and I'm not either. I'm looking to see, is this a business that would truly benefit? I want to explain everything about the program and the operating system and the tools that come with it, and the commitment that you're going to need to make as a leadership team, and tell you about my coaching style. Because that happens sometimes too, where the business is like, we love EOS, but your coaching style is not going to fit with us, right? And that's fine. There's a lot of implementers. I can recommend another one. I know them all, or most of them. And I would highly encourage a business owner to do that. Have that 90-minute meeting. I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get some additional clarity on your leadership team as far as your issues go that you can talk about internally. The best thing that can happen is like what happened to me. We found a program that, fundamentally changed everything in our business and set us on a path toward, ultimately selling the business to a much larger entity and unlimited job opportunities for the staff and growth and income and all those things that came with it.
So I've been out of entrepreneurship and small business world for a little while, so I'm a little further away from it. Would you say that EOS has kind of exploded in recent years, or is it still a little bit of the best kept secret?
Yeah.
Is there a network of EOS companies that kind of talk to each other about how they...
Yeah. All of the above, I mean, there's, I think, close to 200,000 businesses now that are running EOS in some form.
Okay.
And hundreds of implementers across the world. So EOS is worldwide now. And yeah, I mean, if you go back 10, 12 years, it was a Michigan thing, and there were, Gino was still doing implementation, and the original founders. It's gotten much, much larger, and it's gotten larger because it works. I mean, it truly works. And when you talk to other EOS companies, and we do have we have a number of groups that we get together with other EOS companies. There's 3 implementers here in the Lansing area, and myself, that will get together. And there's implementers on the west side of the state and east side of the state do the same thing. We draw companies in to collaborate, share ideas, share best practices, talk about what they're frustrated with, what's not working for them, and just try to help each other. It's truly a help first mentality, which is one of EOS's core values, is help first and do the right thing. And every implementer I've ever met has that mindset. And most of us are business people who've had success, have moved on from our business, sold our business, and we're looking to give back. We're looking to do something else. And for me, it's what I enjoy. I get up every day to do it. It's where I'm happiest is in a session room with a leadership team dealing with heavy issues and trying to get the answers out.
That's fantastic. Well, again, I think it's really important as human beings that we are where we're meant to be. And it's nice to hear that this isn't just kind of a fix your business, get rich quick scheme, kind of sign here and pay me money and I promise things will get better. To your point, most people in your situation are believers in the product, benefactors of the EOS system, and want to share that to other people who are banging their head against the wall like where you were years ago.
Yeah, they truly do. And it never ceases to amaze me. No matter how many businesses I talk to that run on EOS, you hear the same thing. The only companies I've ever talked to, and I could probably count them on one hand, who have said, we tried EOS and it didn't work for us. When I peel the onion back a little further, one of two things. Either they self-implemented, which I'm not saying you can't self-implement. You can implement EOS without an implementer. It's not as easy. In fact, on my podcast, I have an episode dedicated to that with a company that did self-implement. It can happen, but in a lot of cases, that's what happened. They didn't have an outside person with a little bit more objectivity to come in and help that leadership team. The other thing that happens is they've implemented bits and pieces of it, but they didn't do the whole system. So when I look at it, I go, that's not really EOS. That's something else.
Two-legged stool falls over.
Yeah, you've got part of it, but you didn't do the whole system. So
got it. Okay. Well, how can people learn more and contact you if they want to do one of those assessments?
Yeah, they can look at me up on LinkedIn, Mike Maddox. I'm on LinkedIn. They can also look at my EOS website, which is, I think, will be shared with the podcast, but it's at EOS Worldwide /Mike-Maddox, MADDOX. Or just get a hold of me at my email, which is mike@maddoxhome.com.
Fantastic. Like Maddox, we've been appreciative of you telling us about this EOS system. I do know small business owners who use the system and are better for it. And I wish you all the success as you downshift into helping others.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate being on.